Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. So today we are going to talk about the wounded inner child. Have you ever wondered why a child or an adult for that matter experiences persistent and chronic feeling of emptiness, loneliness and hopelessness? This person or this child many a times lacks the sense of aliveness. Have you ever wondered why you just see a child or an adult and they're just off? Is that they're always carrying a baggage. It's like always there's heaviness in their hearts, like something is just always wrong. This is why today we are talking about an inner child wounds. This is a wounded child. So we want to know what causes a child to be wounded. What is this inner wounds, first of all? So I want to tell you, inner wounds are the inner feelings and emotions by a child. It is the inside part of us that influence what we do, how we behave and the decisions we make. So if the inner child in us is wounded, it means the decisions we make are wounded, the influences of what we do are wounded, and the inside part of us is wounded. And wounded meaning a child, and even all the way up to the adulthood. So this will introduce us to the topic of the wounded inner child. Why is this inner part of a child wounded? This occurs when a child is exposed to traumatic experiences during conception, during birth, and even in the outside world. Maybe a traumatic experience that happened even in your adult life that has caused to, an inner, which triggers what happened maybe in the past of a child. So which means this child's the inner child of this person is wounded. So we call it the wounded inner child. So you can find a child just throwing tantrums for no reason, just throwing tantrums of facing challenges. Even making friends is not easy. A child who can't even go there and make friends. Of course, a child can be shy. Being shy is just a natural occurrence of a person. I mean, God created us all different. Some are very outgoing, some are introverts, some are extroverts. But when it is continuous cycle of a child facing difficulty in making friends, in throwing tantrums, of having these serious mood swings, and this carries all the way up to up to adulthood, and even carrying this up to their relationships and interactions with other people. That tells you that there's a part of this child, this person, this adult, this man, this woman that is wounded. So that is what we want to address today. We want to address about the wounded inner child. So as always, in my topics, I like first of all to discuss the signs. You can't talk about something you don't know. So it makes you look at yourself critically. You look at yourself critically, and you look at your children or people surrounding you to identify some of these things. We said in this channel we impart knowledge to improve the quality of our lives. So by imparting knowledge, we see signs, we know causes, and even get ways of solving these things so that we improve the quality of our life, so that if there's a place where we need to change, we change it and we address it, and we heal from it, so that everybody enjoys the quality of life according to the way God created them to enjoy. So I'm going to read some of the points that I have here on the signs of a wounded inner child. When a child or a person, when you say a child, it's not only addressing children. You can be an adult suffering from an wounded inner child. That part of your life as a child that didn't grow up. You're now in your 14, your 15, your 30s, but there's that child part of you that didn't grow up because it was wounded. That is what I'm addressing. This message is not automatically to only children. It's also to adults who have an inner part of their child that was wounded. So if you want to know, a wounded inner child is a person with serious low self-esteem and low criticism. They always criticize themselves when they do anything. That serious low self-esteem, that they never believe in themselves. They're never worthy. Another point is the self-sabotaging behaviors, that even when you can do something, but you always feel like I can never do it. You don't have confidence in yourself. Having a crush and a wooden spirit. You can know that when someone is always so down, so low, and when something happens, it affects them so deeply, even a small thing. That tells you that this person's spirit, this person's heart, this person, is wounded, has a wounded spirit. Fear of abandonment or letting go. Have you ever seen that person or that child that when they cling onto something or they cling onto someone, they want to stay there for so long because it's like their life depends on this person, their hope, their dreams depends on this person. So even in a relationship, you find a lady or a man who is so clinging onto you. The being clingy is not sometimes people, people call it insecurity. Yes, it's insecurity because there's a part of them that is wounded. There's a part of them that was trauma, that has suffered some traumatic experiences, whether knowingly or unknowingly, even before they were born, by the way. So you find someone being so clingy, or someone getting so addicted onto something, like you like maybe a particular song or a particular, not even song, a program, something that gives them hope, that you hold on to it so much that it's too much that it becomes now a point of concern. So when a person fears letting go or fears abandonment, being left alone, like if you leave this person alone, something will happen. So that's another point: fear of abandonment or letting go. Always this person feel, or this child, we said it's either an adult or a child, this person feels inadequate or unworthy at all times. When it's consistent, when it's all the time they feel like that, that tells you that something in them didn't grow up. There's self-confidence that didn't grow up. Something in them definitely is wrong. Also, another point is being a people's pleaser to gain acceptance. Trouble saying no. That anything you do, you're always so scared of saying no or trying to please people so that you belong. When you're constantly seeking to sense of belonging or to gain acceptance from people, whether you're an adult or a child, that tells you that there's something, a part of your life that is not okay. There's a wounded part in your life that needs to be addressed, needs to be sorted, so that you can have your own self-confidence. Another thing is fear of abandonment or rejection. If you check my previous videos, I've talked about the spirit of rejection. The spirit of rejection can also cause um, and can also cause a wounded inner child. Your inner child can become wounded because of the spirit of rejection is at work in your life. That spirit, that demon is controlling you, so you fear being rejected. So that is a wounded inner child. Difficulty in setting or enforcing boundaries. When someone is somewhere and this thing is wrong, it's not right, or it's against your principles, but because you fear or you have difficulty in setting boundaries or enforcing boundaries, that tells you that you're shaky, your foundation is shaky. There's something in you that is afraid. So such like this fear of being a burden or asking for help when you need something, like even let me say a job, not even a job, just when you fear. I'd never like use the word fear, by the way, people. Fear is a spirit. When you're afraid of asking for help, even in small areas, it just shows the lack of self-confidence in you, that something in you is wrong, that something in you needs to be woken up, so that you can also tackle issues. You can also ask for help like everybody else. You can address things like anybody else. Yeah, so another sign is being over clingy or over possessive in relationships. That one I've addressed earlier, where you always want to cling onto someone or onto something because it's like your life depends on it. It's like this person or this thing gives you hope. You see, even in a relationship, when yourself clinging too much onto your person, you even know this person is not for you, but you cling because that is where actually people get narcissistic behaviors, because you're dating a narcissist or you're married to a narcissist, but you can't leave this person because your life depends on this person. This person gives you self-worthiness. This person gives you a title, gives you belonging, because by yourself, you cannot do it. So such like things, being over clingy or over possessive in relationships, or seek another point is seeking constant reassurance to alleviate your anxiety. You're always seeking your reassurance. You don't even trust yourself in things you can do. Even choosing an outfit, you do not trust yourself. You have to get someone to validate you, to give you self-worth. This this wounded child has a lot to do also, by the way, with the spirit of rejection. So you look at the symptoms of someone who suffers rejection and an inner wounded child. There's a lot of similarities. So as always, after we know the signs, you look at yourself, you look at your child, you see that something is wrong with this person. You want to know what caused this inner wounded child. Why is my inner child wounded? Why is it that that part of my child, of me as a child, didn't grow? What happened? What was the traumatic experience? Some of these things happen even without your knowledge. Things like word at conception, where maybe one of the parents did not like the fact that your mother got pregnant, or your mother was not happy that she got pregnant with you, especially first time mothers or first time dads, the shock that comes with it and the things they say while in shock. Some may reject the child, rejecting the child or things like those. When a child, and I said earlier that a child, that fetus, that egg, that embryo inside the mother's tummy that has just been conceived is a spirit. And guys, a spirit has ears, it hears. A spirit has ears. That child is a spirit at that moment, before, when it's in the mother's womb, even if it's just a dot. So this child already will hear that already it's rejected, its existence is rejected. This pattern can start if it's an unwanted pregnancy. So this child already starts get wounded right from conception, because when it's conceived and the father rejects it, or the mother didn't want it, or whatever circumstance, they don't speak life in this child. And this is a message to parents: even if you don't want this child, there's some things you shouldn't say, you should not say, because this child releases. It's a dot. It's not even the mother's belly has not popped up. She does not even know sometimes that she's even pregnant. But because this child is a spirit, it's living, it's alive in the mother's womb, it will hear. So watch what you say. So a child is already wounded, if just from conception, even before it's born, a child is already wounded. Another point that leads to an inner wounded, a wounded inner child is difficulty at birth. Difficult birth process. A multitude of painful experiences can take place at birth, leaving an imprint on the child, even though one may have no memory of it. For example, the conception and pregnancy of a baby who has had a baby who was born painfully. It was a painful birth process. The mother maybe had a painful, labor, or the mother was ill, or during that time of the whole pregnancy time, there was serious financial constraints or abuse from the father. You've heard of partners who hit their wives, maybe the tummy, when they're fighting and she's pregnant. Abuse and strife, such like things. As I said before, all these things can cause a child to be wounded. You may not know as a parent, you're holding this child, you're having it in your tummy, but a child is a spirit and a child listens. So even if such things is happening, you as a mother, you as a father, to this unborn child, just speak life. Even if the other partner is speaking negative, or even you personally, you're a human, sometimes you have negative thoughts because you're not ready for this child. Just speak positive. Just say, yes, I was not ready, but I bring into this world. People say that when God brings a child, God brings even the plate of the child. So God knows what this child will eat, what this child will drink, will put on. So just speak life into this child. Children born with strife, also they know that their parents do not get along, so these things definitely affect children. So these on the first two topics, we are talking about children at conception level, and such like this. And even when now a child is born, a child can suffer rejection. Maybe a child is born and the mother does not want this child, so a child is put up for adoption for various reasons. Sometimes honestly, it's not even the fault of the mother or the father that this child was set up for adoption. Circumstances in life may cause. But what you do not know, that sometimes these things, this cause the child to grow up with questions, asking, why am I not loved? Why don't I belong? So you see, that child is already wounded. So that wounded part of a child is what leads to a wounded inner child. So this child will grow up, this child will become successful, this child will even be in a godly setup, but there's that question of, why was I abandoned? Why was I left? Why was I adopted? It's always, that's why you see a person can even be 50 years old, but the person says, I'm going to look for my dad, I'm going to look for my mom. Why do they do that? It's because of this inner child. So if life gets you to become a single parent or such like things, speak life into the child and tell God, you are the mother and yes, I'm the mother, but God, you're the mother and the father of this child. So you see, this child will grow up, because you've involved God in it, this child will grow up not feeling the void of that this other person was not there. And this is a message to people who constantly accuse single mothers. It is very wrong of you. If anything happens to a child, you say because it was brought by because the child was brought by a single mother. A single mother or a single father did not choose for that child to be brought up like that. Maybe it was through death, or it's beyond you. If someone does not want to live with this woman or with this man, you can't force relationships, guys. You can't force relationships. But now what we do to fill this void for a child is tell God, be the father and be the mother of this child. Even if I'm the biological mother or biological father and I'm raising this child, but Lord God, fill this void that this child may never grow up lacking the love of a father, the love of a mother, or even where they were sent for adoption. Pray for that child, that the child will that void to be filled by God, so that this child may never feel that there was a void. So you see, when you do that, you heal this wound, you heal this wound in a child. So have you ever seen children who said, look, yeah, I didn't grow up with a mother and father, but it's okay with me because where I've grown up is so blessed. I'm blessed. They've taken care of me well. I don't even feel like there's a void. It's because the spirit of that child's spirit is not wounded. So it is possible for you, and it's never too late. Even if in your 50s, speak life into your inner child and say, no more wounds, no more wounds, no more wounds. And let me tell you, see the healing of the Lord. So that's the third point. Another point that leads to wounded inner child is dysfunctional homes. Homes where mothers and fathers are constantly fighting, constantly abusing each other, constantly fighting in front of the children, and these children grow up crying for mother, dad stop beating mom stop beating dad. Toxic family dynamics can damage a child's development in visible and invisible ways. Parents, whenever you have those fights, do it in the confines of your bedroom, because you may think that you are just fighting and these children are so young, they're 2 years old, they don't know. But trust me, these things never leave the child's spirit. Remember, a spirit is alive. The child may just be 6 months or 2 years, but these things leave imprints in the child's life. So psychological injuries cause emotional abandonment of parents. In fact, parents even who suffer psychological issues, their own issues will affect the children knowingly and unknowingly. So this is a message to parents also. When you have issues, don't fight in front of your children. Let me tell you, you might think that, or even the child itself may never feel like it doesn't affect them. They may not feel at that moment, but in the adulthood, they find themselves also being abusive. What their dad did to their mom, or what their mom did to their dad, they will do the same thing, because first of all, there's generational curses, and second of all, when this happened, because that is the toxic environment is the only environment this child understands. So in how they will interact in their relationships or even with their friends, they'll always just have a spirit of fighting, because that is all they know. So that tells you this child is wounded. This child is wounded, and that's why this child is just negative. Everything they believe is sorted out through fighting. So be very careful about dysfunctional homes. Even parents who even fight in their homes, unfortunately, they're also the inner child is also wounded. That's why they're behaving the way they're behaving. Many adults right now suffer these painful memories. They either learn that a strong parent, they either learn that they wish they had strong parents who sorted their issues, or they also end up just becoming like that, unfortunately. So it is very important that we try and not have toxic or dysfunctional homes. And dysfunctional homes not even the parents, even sibling rivalry, siblings fighting among each other. As children, sometimes even as siblings, we abuse each other. You big eyes, you can never be anything. You big forehead, big what, all those things, we abuse each other. You may do it as a child to your fellow child. We used to have this thing as children that where we used to, I don't know how to call it, where we used to, what do I say? Insulting each other in a joking way. Like, I insult you by saying a part of you that is not right, and you insult me saying a part of me that is not right. Yes, it's just a game, but let me tell you, these things never go away. It leaves kind of insecurity in this child. And then already that's a part that already becomes wounded. Yes, you are just playing games, but it becomes dysfunctional in this child. So dysfunctional homes, toxic homes also really, really lead to in a wounded child. So another thing is child naming. How do you name your child? What name do you give your child? What does it symbolize? Names are powerful and not just a means of identification. If you named your child that uncle who used to be bitter and used to fight people, do you know that because of this name, this child will definitely pick these characteristics? Will definitely pick these characteristics of that uncle, that aunt. You say, "Oh, I'm naming my child my grandmother or my mother," and maybe this grandmother suffered a serious spirit of rejection. Do you know just because of that name, this child will automatically pick this spirit of rejection? And knowingly and unknowingly, this child's spirit will already be wounded. So our child becomes a wounded child, wounded inner child. The inner child of this child is wounded just because of the person you named, you know. So you do not use names that tear down children. Even the nicknames you give a child, you silly child. You know, a person can have evil names or sad names, and it will affect a person's destinies of breakthrough. You know, I've seen even in our country where we live, where someone calls a child even something to do with alcohol. You know, an alcoholic name. You know, and you get worried and you get so stressed. Why in the a child becomes a teenager and automatically starts drinking, becomes an alcoholic, not realizing that it's even in the name. It's in this name that you named this child. So how we name our children is also very, very important. So you should give names that edify this child. Give, even go to the Bible, then give biblical names then, and good names. Don't give Judas Iscariot, you know. Okay, I don't know other bad names, but don't give bad names. Give names that, you see, when some people call their children hope, peace, they look funny names, but you know, sometimes if you look at it critically, they're speaking hope into this child's life. So naming of a child is very important, because a name can attract bondages, can attract curses, and can affect a child even before they are born, and even when they come into existence into this world. So another thing is ungodly soul ties. So a child can suffer from ungodly soul ties and can become wounded. You know, something that even not even a child, even an adult, maybe something happened, even raped, maybe a child or a person was raped, and this raped even in their teenage age or even in adulthood, or when they were young. So because of such things, a child grows up with that emptiness and that hopeless feeling, and the self-worth is just down. So such ungodly soldiers, because you know, when this child was raped, that became she or he got into an ungodly soul tie with the person who raped them. So unless these things are broken, this person, or if someone suffered traumatic experiences, or even wife beating husband, or husband beating wife, and violence, you know, a boss always picking on an employee, such lead to ungodly, that bitterness. That bitterness is the ungodly soul tie. That grudge is the ungodly soul tie we're talking about. And these ungodly soul ties become demons in a person's life, and they need to be ejected. You need to pray, you need to go for deliverance for such things to happen. So when you find a child or a person is just wounded, there's just something off about them. They're just bitter and angry with life. They're just hopeless. You know, it's because there's something working against them. It's because of this ungodly soul ties. So, guys, those are some of the points that lead to a wounded inner child. Why is your inner child wounded? It's because of traumatic experiences, knowingly and unknowingly. Some even happened before you were born. Like some, even everything was okay. Your mother had a wonderful pregnancy. Your father accepted you. Everything was so good. But the catch was when they named you. They named you the name of someone who's cursed. They named you someone whose life was not clean, someone who was bitter, someone who maybe suffered rejection, someone who was a murderer, someone who maybe suffered things like alcoholism, you know, someone who was a witch. Maybe you don't even know. So you find this child aping some of these characteristics. But why? It's because of the naming. So even naming of a child, give names. You see, even in the Bible, Abraham was changed to Abram. Jacob was named to Israel. You know, names have to be changed so that you get to enjoy your breakthrough. You get to enjoy the season that and the purpose that God has created for you. So be very careful when you're naming children parents. Be very careful when parents sometimes you say you stupid child. Those names you give a child, those things you say, or even you say my son, where he works, they know that he will never make it. He never gets it right. You see, you're already implanting that thing. You're already causing wounds on this person. This person's inner child becomes wounded. So that part will not grow. It will not grow because it is wounded. So let's see how we are even during conception. Be very careful. I know circumstances sometimes are not easy. You never know how people react when you get pregnant. If maybe the pregnancy is even troubled, maybe it's a sick child even in the womb. Just pick life and just ask God. God says, look for me, you will find me. So even when situations are tough, when you've just conceived and someone denied your child, or fine, the child is okay, but the child is suffering from, issues even while in the tummy or even in the outside, when the child already comes in the outside. Just speak life. You never know. Those words in Proverbs 18:21, the Bible says that there's power in the tongue and it speaks life or death. So whether you do not know the situation you're dealing with, just speak life, guys. Just speak life. Speak life into yourself. Speak life into this child, so that if there's an inner wound, a childhood that is not growing because it's wounded, these things will be ejected, and this child's quality of life will be improved. So speak life, speak life, speak life, speak positivity. Dysfunctional homes, parents, see how to sort your issues, so that these children, you think they're 6 months just laying on the sofa there, they're not listening. The inner child is listening. The spirit in them is listening. And these things may affect the children in the days to come. So yeah, that is what I wanted to share today, everyone. That if you see someone who's constantly off, constantly feeling worthless, apart from the spirit of rejection in this person, the person's inner child may also be wounded. So that's why I decided today we discuss about a wounded inner child, so we know what causes and these wounds, and what are the signs to know that your inner child is wounded. So yeah, in the next video, as always, we have to show how to sort out this inner child wounds, this wounded child. How do you get this wounded child out of this bad phase? How does this child now get to grow in the ways of the Lord and in the firm foundation? So we will get that in our next topic. So guys, I hope you enjoyed my lesson. I hope you learned something. I'm also always learning something as I as I do my research, as I pray about the topics we're going to have. We're always learning something, and yeah, we thank God for this. And as again we say, through Proverbs 11:9, through knowledge shall they just be delivered. So each time you get knowledge, each time you look at yourself, you look at your children, you look at your family, and you know that, oh, this is what has been affecting us. And definitely, every knowledge, there's a you get a problem and you get a solution. So yeah, so let's get solutions to and raise children and raise adults whose inner child are not wounded. So stay tuned for our next topic, our next video, where we're going to tackle how to destroy this inner child that is wounded inner child. Thank you guys for, if you finished up to this part, thank you so much for watching the whole video. I still urge you to press your notification bell, so that whenever I post something, you're the first one to know. And as always, please subscribe. Don't watch without subscribing. Subscribing is good because it makes it reaches the masses. And when you subscribe and you share, when you like, you help me pass this message across. As always, we said, we pass this message across for the glory of God, and also to improve the quality of our lives. Thank you guys.